And we're live. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our next virtual launch party for Patricia Donahue, who writes on of GB, her first children's book, From Beyond the Fey Veil. And we'll spend the next however long we're here talking about her book and what she has planned for the future. So with that, Pat, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your book. But I got to go back and introduce myself too. My name is Michael Hurd, and I'm the owner of Lineage Independent Publishing. I keep forgetting to do that.
Good evening, Mike. And I'm Pat Donahue, aka GB Carmichael.
Yeah. So anyway, the book was your first foray into writing a children's book, and of course it was the publishing company's first foray into publishing one. What was your motivation to just dive right in and do this?
I never planned to write a children's book. When COVID started, my then 7-year-old granddaughter was totally devastated because they couldn't come and visit, and she, from week 1 of her life, she was spending time here every week. So it happened, I think it was my birthday, which was sort of just after the first lockdown, and all 3 of my children brought their cars and sort of parked them outside the house like a fan. First I knew they were there was I could hear this happy birthday to you. And I've gone out and they're all standing outside with the car. And my granddaughter ran, heading for a hug. And her dad sort of, stop, you can't hug Nana, we told you. And she was so upset at not being able to do that. And she'd brought me a little bag with a teddy bear in it and a painting that she'd done. And she said, I miss you so much, Nana. So I started writing little funny poems and sending them to her. And then my 3-year-old, as she was then, granddaughter, or 2.5-year-old, I used to send them to her. Then my best friend said, can I have some, please? Because she's got grandchildren. Her son's in the forces, her daughter somewhere else, and another child with children. So they were there. Then my cousin in Scotland was asking for them. So I was putting them in envelopes and posting them up to friends in Scotland as well. Then, as you know, we launched Canongate to Cannon Shell. Mm-hmm. And my eldest son, who is the father of said daughter, Mia, my granddaughter, and she was with him in the audience when we launched Canongate to Cannon Shell. And she said, Nana, can't you do a book of the fairy stories? And you very kindly said, of course she can, can't you? And so I was hoisted on my own petard, basically, which meant I had to then expand more because they were just funny little ditties. There was no thought put into them ever being seen by anybody other than children. And I had to go back and do an awful lot of writing to bulk it out to a book. But I enjoyed it. And my brain just took flight the way that it always does. But I mean, my brain's always in flight. It's never where it should be.
Because by the time we were all done, it was almost 80 pages. Well, 80 pages of content, plus the additional pages that go into putting the front matter and so on. But still, from trying to write for the child's mindset, especially something that's really meant to be read aloud, is a challenge.
I didn't notice. I was just trying to do something that would please her and make her smile and think of the times when she'd stay and we'd sit in bed in the morning with a bit of toast and a cup of tea and her with her orange juice and we'd read because that child took to reading and books and poetry like she was born to suck it up. And her favorite poem, she had me, and it's not a short poem, she'd have me read it every Sunday that she stayed on a Saturday, every time she stayed, we had to read The Highwayman.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite a gory end to it. The black-haired beauty at the inn is captured by the redcoats, and they put the musket under her breast, and she manages to get a finger to the thing and shoot to warn the highwayman, and then he gets killed because he races to try and find out if she's alive when he finds out what it was. And my granddaughter loved that story.
Huh.
And I just thought, do you know what? I'm just going to go with the things that she seems to like.
Hey, that works. That works, because I mean, you've got everything in the book. You know, everything from, well, like Martin just said, from fairy talk to mythological creatures to talking animals, and it's just, you know, it was a pleasure to look at those stories and see the imagination that went into them.
Thank you to my grandmother and my father. They lit the fire in my imagination when I was the same age as my granddaughter. Little. My grandmother taught me to read with books like Kipling's Sabu the Elephant Boy. It's got a different name as well, but that's how I remember it. And my mother bought me Little Women and What Katie Did when I was about 8 or 9. And I never stopped reading. I just, like she is, suck it in. I love reading. So
we've got similar fond memories of having Kipling read to us when we were children. I can still remember my dad reading "If" to me, one of Kipling's
that's
poems.
beautiful. Yes.
And then Gunga Din. You can talk when you're quartered safe out here and sent to penny fights and Aldershot it. But when it comes to slaughter, you do your work on water and lick the bloomin' boots of him that's got it.
Yeah, no, my grandmother, I mean, she raised me on tales from her mother and her grandmother's stories of what happened in Ireland, and sort of my, I don't know how many times, great grandmother being dragged out of her bed by the tans and stood outside in her nightdress in the cold and rain, and another one of the Donahues escaping Ireland because they'd stolen a chicken or something, and they led their horse out through the village with cloths wrapped around the hoofs to stop the clatter on the stones. All of it fired everything in me. I just couldn't. I couldn't be anything other than as mad as a hatter when it came to imagination. Everything was possible in my head when I was little, and it still is.
Okay. So let's move on to another question. You've written one compendium of poetry, short stories, and novellas. You've written a full-length novel, and now we've got a children's book out there. What was the most difficult?
The Vacation Killer.
All right, you're breaking up a little bit, Pat. So let's give it about 10 seconds to stabilize. Okay. Which one was the most difficult?
The Vacation Killer.
Why?
Because there were 4 chapters written as short stories, and you wanted a whole novel from it.
Say again?
Because there was 4 short stories in the beginning, and you wanted it made into a full-length novel. It was like trying to build a fort around 4 pillars, because I had to weave in between timelines and happenings and things to expand it, and then have to add something more and give it a more fleshed out ending. So it was the hardest. But I have to correct you. I have actually written 2 compendiums of stories. That you just haven't had the second one yet.
Okay, we've published.
Yes.
It's still in the queue.
Yes, it is.
So, to me, I would have thought that the children's book would have been more difficult. I mean, if I were to try to write a children's book, it's like, where do I start? Because
you go into your inner child.
And it's really hard for me to do that. And so I let my grandson do the writing, and we work together on his little stories that we've posted on Kindle Vella. And it's very it's enjoyable to sit down with him and help him put his stories together.
Oh, that's lovely.
So okay. In the book, you've got talking animals, fairies, mythological characters. What were the inspiration for, let's say, Scaramouche? What was your inspiration for Scaramouche?
One of my closest friends and I used to go regularly up to Scotland on holiday. And one of the times that we went up, we went to the Highland Deer Sanctuary or Deer Centre. And in the centre, they not only had deer that you could feed through the fence and things, but they had otters that they came out and fed, and the otters were hilarious. And the pictures in the book are pictures I took of the otters, and one of them just made me absolutely fall in love with him. He was just so cheeky. He was like this, looking, waiting for food from anybody that was around. He was running up and down looking for the food. And I don't know why or how. And it's the same with everything that I write. Something comes in here. I don't look for it. And when I was trying to think of names for the characters, somebody whispered Scaramouche, and I thought it's perfect for him. It just sounds like him. A little bit of trouble.
Okay.
Harum scarum. And
of course, Loki. You got Loki in the book. That's based on Norse mythology, right? Loki.
It is, yes. For heaven's sake, one of the TV programs, and it's a huge series of books that have been written about the Norsemen and Alfred. It's not Game of Thrones, it's something else, but it's gone from my head. In that, he talks about in the underworld, Loki is the mischief maker. He's the one who causes trouble. And I thought that's what I want to portray, that he's a mischief maker. Not that he's naughty or bad, but he's naughty, but he's not bad. He's like my grandson, Roman. He's a bit of an imp.
Okay. So Lisa just asked a question about the cover. Well, Lisa says she loves the cover, and did you actually take the photograph? And then, of course, I have a question that goes along with that. Just tell us more about the cover.
Okay. When my children were probably about 7 and 6 or 7 and 8, something like that, we went up to Scotland, because we did frequently, to stay with my uncle and my aunt, and we would go to the tattoo and watch every year we went to the tattoo. And this particular night, we had been to the tattoo another night, and we were on Princes Street. I think we were probably heading to McDonald's if anything was normal. And we were in the trees down in Princes Street Gardens, and the fireworks began up from the castle, and it started to rain. So the kids and I are underneath the trees, and the fireworks are going off, and I'm thinking, I'll see if I can get some pictures of the fireworks. And I took it up through the branches of the trees. And when I was taking it, I couldn't see the colours. All I could see was the fireworks. And I was thinking, it looks so pretty with the leaves in sort of relief in front of the fireworks. But when it came to looking at the picture that came out, I was astonished, because, of course, the light of the fireworks and taking the photograph through the rain refracted the colours, and it just was magical. And when I was thinking about the cover for the book, I thought, we just need to add fairies. We've got the perfect cover.
And it is a very nice cover. I think that the rest of the team agrees on that. It just was one of those that just kind of came together quite easily. It's
like the things that the books. I don't do it. I'm just a conduit. I take no credit. I really take no credit, because I can't. It's truly like I sit down, with a title. For example, with the writers groups that I belong to, I sit down with the title and something just is like a picture postcard vignette.
Mm-hmm.
And I start to write, and I don't know where it's going until it's written. If you tell me how's it going to end, I've no idea. So my English teacher would be aghast that I did not have a beginning, a middle, and an end in my head before I started. So yes, Lisa, I did take the picture, and thank you. I'm glad that you like it.
And then Martin, I'm not sure what he's asking.
Oh, no, I understand what he's saying. He said,
okay.
He thought that she was asking, did I take a picture with fairies in it? But that answer is no. I put the fairies there afterwards. Only don't tell the children.
And hopefully none of them are watching.
Not the ones that are little enough for it to be a problem for.
Yeah. So we have 4 people watching right now. We have Martin, we have Sandy, and we have Lisa. I'm trying to find out who the 4th one is. Okay. So Lisa can't hear us. She can see us.
Okay. No, I haven't seen any fairies. Ghosts, yes. Fairies, no.
Okay. Our 4th person has identified themselves. Heather Bates.
Yeah, my son, it's my son's mother-in-law, my daughter-in-law's mother.
Oh, okay. All right. Welcome, Heather. Glad you could join us.
Yes, I'm very pleased. Thank you, Heather.
No. So Pat, you had an extract that you wanted to read from the book?
I'm going to read just a little bit of the Tree Walkers.
Okay, which is the last short story in the book.
It is, yes. And it was inspired by the love of my life, really. He was as mad as a hatter and an absolute delight. And we were driving one day and he sort of said, you do know that the telegraph poles go walkabout at night, don't you? And I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, don't, because he was a carpenter. And he said, you know that wood is a living thing. Just because they're cut into a shape and stuck in the ground, it doesn't mean that they don't think and feel like they did when they were trees. I said, oh, right, okay. And I'm thinking, okay, I wonder what he's been drinking today. But when you said that we were 4 pages light, could I do another short story or something, or a poem, or get some more art? I decided to write a version of Tim's idea. The Tree Walkers are remembered now only in the land of magic, their existence almost completely wiped out by the advance of man and progress. Woody and Hickey were once tall and strong, distinguished, and old oaks that had lived in the great forest. Then man came and cut vast swathes through the trees to build their railroads, houses, and the furniture within them. I won't read anymore because it's... Okay, there's one little bit. As time passed and the world progressed still further, more trees were cut to hold what had seemed to be a magical wire, where human words were sent from one side of the country to the other. The telegraph poles stretched across the land of the world like military sentinels, and great forests were again asked to sacrifice their numbers to man's progress. I've just seen Lisa. I can believe you're a believer. Yes.
So hearing you read that, it's so much different to hear you read that than it is to just read the words on the page. And so it's like a night and day difference. You know, which is why I've said in all of the publicity that we've tried to do that there are large portions of this book that are meant to be read aloud.
Definitely.
Either to children or by an emerging reader.
Yes. That was the whole point, that when I sent them, I knew Mia would be able to read it for herself, the small ones, the little poem ones, but her mum or her dad would have read it to her. But it's very strange that the vocalized reading of stories has strange power, because my youngest son, I said to him, what did you think of the book, the first one? And he said, I haven't read it, Mum. He said, I don't read. I don't like reading. I lose concentration in a paragraph. He said, if it was audiobook, I'd listen to it. I said, okay, I'm going to read a chapter of the book and send it to you in audio. So I did. And I said to him, did you listen? Yes, I did. He said, both Haley and I sat in bed listening to it. He said, Mum, I can't. He said, I can't sit in bed with my wife and listen to you reading to me like you did Lord of the Rings, because all I can see is me curled up there and you going, my precious, and all the other little voices that you used when you were reading Lord of the Rings, and I was 7. So he won't listen to my voice. So I need to get someone else to read the plastic books for him.
And we won't say anything about mother being in bed with son and his wife.
No, exactly. I didn't want to go there. I thought that by saying that he was kind of like, oh, I can't do this. Yeah.
So Sandy asked a question. She says, oh, you've seen ghosts. And she wants to know if they'll make an appearance in future writings.
They were already in Canongate and Canonshell.
She hasn't read that one yet.
When I was 5, we lived in a cottage in the middle of nowhere in Scotland, and my father worked for the Forestry Commission, and the house that we lived in was the cottage that a woman called Margaret Sinclair, who is now Saint Margaret Sinclair, she stayed in that cottage. It was her cottage, obviously, but she stayed in it in the summer months for when she had her holiday from the work that she did. She worked with the poor and the needy in the worst conditions in the city in Scotland, and she was made a saint. But I didn't know any of that at 5 years old. And I got up one night to go to the bathroom, and my bedroom's at one end of the hallway and the bathroom's at the other end. I have to pass the sitting room door where my mum and dad are not watching TV. They're listening to the radio, because we didn't have a TV there. It was Calagas lighting, where you light the little filament lamps and pull the chains to make it lower and higher things. And I got up and I toddled down to the bathroom, done what I need to do, come back. As I'm coming back, a woman in a blue dress walks past me and goes out the front door, but she didn't open the door. And I thought, oh, that's quite amazing. But I'm 5. I believe in anything. So I go to bed and I go back to sleep. And then in the morning, I'm sitting at breakfast and I said to my dad, Daddy, who was the lady in the blue dress? What lady in the blue dress? I said, the lady that was going out the door last night when I got... You're dreaming, child. About 3 months later, my father, who had been out for the evening on a Saturday and was slightly the worse for wear, had come home and he had let himself in, and he's coming down the hallway when the lady in blue heads out past him out the front door. And he walked into the bedroom, and my mother was sitting reading in bed. And my mother said afterwards, when I was growing up, and she told me sort of the story more, she said, your father, when I know, because I could hear him fanning around with his key and taking ages because he was so tiddly, he couldn't see properly. He walked into the bedroom stone cold sober. And he said, I've just spent £5 getting drunk and I'm sober again. What on earth did I just see?
So I'm trying to remember that's an amazing tale. I'm trying to remember where in Canongate the ghost came in. I'm trying, to be honest with you, I've edited and looked at so many different books since then.
Yeah.
That I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember if it's called The Lady in Blue or The Ghost Story, or I can't remember.
Let me grab the copy off the shelf here and look at the table of contents. Some woman named Pat signed this one, so
You're welcome. You can pay me another time.
thank you. The Boy Stood on the Burning Deck. For some reason, that one,
No.
And I'm not seeing anything where the title.
Give me 2 seconds and I can nip away and get the book out of my sitting room.
Sure, because I'm curious now. There you go.
Can't remember.
It's not important. We can go back and look at it some other time.
Yeah, I just can't remember. I'm sure I must have put it in there though.
So anyway, does anybody out there, the 4 people that are watching us, do any of you have questions for either Pat or myself? Oh, Lisa says she can finally hear us. She plugged the speakers in. No, Lisa, we're not going to repeat everything. You just have to listen to it on playback.
That must have been a gremlin. Or it might have been Loki, of course.
Could be. So, Martin, do you have any questions? I guess Martin doesn't have any questions for us. How about Heather? Heather, you joined us, I think, right from the start. Do you have any other questions?
Have you noticed that none of my children have bothered to identify themselves?
Well, there's only 4 people online, so.
So my children have not bothered, yes. My daughter, I get it, and probably my daughter-in-law as well, because they'll be putting the children to bed at this time.
Right.
But
so Martin asked, how big is the book physically? And he's just thinking about kids. Martin, I can answer that question quite easily. What we decided on was going with an 8.5 by 11, which is, I think, a little bit smaller than A4 paper. Is it, Pat?
I'd pass.
Okay, I'd have to look.
But a little bit, I think. Yeah.
But Martin, we designed it to be larger than the standard 6 by 9 paperback book, and then it's available in both paperback and hardcover from Amazon. It is an Amazon exclusive. As much as it pains me to say that, Amazon was the best distribution route for the book. So.
And the reason that we went for the hardback is for resilience, because if people, especially I wanted especially for my children and family to have the book that would stand the test of time, but still allow the children to look at it. And of course, hardback is more durable than a paperback.
But mind you, we did put the premium paperback cover on this one, so that it's a little bit less prone to tearing. And that's one thing that Amazon and our other printer does fairly well is that they do make a good durable cover. So,
and to most children that would be fine, but we're talking about my grandchildren.
So Martin confirmed that what's the 8.5 by 11 slightly smaller than A4. Sandy's asking a question. What's the recommended age?
Well, the thing is, Sandy, it's difficult because it was written over both periods of the 2 years of COVID lockdowns. So my granddaughter, who was 7 when we began it, was 10 when we stopped, because it was about 2.5 years. And the little one, who was 3, she's nearly 6 now. So it was for all of them. And Mia, I've written some for Mia at her age now, as well as some for Chelsea at her age now. And I guess really the thing is, my grandson, one grandson is only 18, 19. No, he's not. He's 23 months old. I'll get told off if I get that wrong. He's 23 months. He loves books. He loves being read to. So the small poemy stories, when Hayley sits down with him, she could read those to him, or Heather could, because she's his grandma too. And Chelsea can have her stories read to her, but the bigger ones if she wants to, or she can read the little ones herself because she's starting to read well now. Mia can read them all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mia and Chelsea vie to see who can read the fastest the book called The Wonky Donkey,
mm-hmm.
which is hilariously funny. And they speak, because it's the Wonky Donkey, and then there's another bit that rhymes with donkey, and it goes on and on. But it's kind of like a repeated that sound all the way through, and they're going and they like a train rattling through it.
So, but like I've said in some of the publicity we've done, however limited it may be, is that the book actually is enjoyable just from a pure recreational reading standpoint for children of all ages. I mean, I enjoyed reading through it as I was putting it together.
So you can access your inner child then.
Yeah, well, I can, but with somebody else's creativity.
Ah, right, okay.
So Lisa's asking a question.
Yes, it is illustrated, Lisa. Yes, it is. A little bit of help from Nana, but mostly it was the grandchildren, both the granddaughters.
So there's their drawings.
Yeah, their drawings, and then they added the dresses from a little, like a fairy storybook that you can get stickers.
You broke up a little bit there, Pat.
Oh, they used a little sticker book that you could make fairies with the dresses and things out of. And the two littlest ones, we got them to do their hands in paint. And then Nana did a little bit of jiggery pokery and turned them into angel wings on some of the pictures. So
nice.
So they all contributed, yes. The two eldest one are a little bit too old for that.
Right. You're breaking up really badly. You may have to go back and repeat the illustration piece again.
Oh dear. The two youngest grandchildren gave me handprints, and I made those into angel wings. The two older of the small grandchildren, they did the drawings, and they are actually in the book, and it says by Chelsea or by Mia in there. And there's a lovely story, a lovely little, yay, hello, Hayley. That's my granddaughter, and that's Roman in the picture with her, if you can see the same thing as I can, Mike.
Yep,
we used their handprints. Oh, and my daughter as well. You. So both the babies of the family, their handprints were wings. And then the next two up, they drew the pictures, and they put things in there that have their names on it. And Mia, she wrote me a lovely little letter. And so, God, what is it with everybody always wanting me to do more work? So the oldest two grandchildren are the only ones who didn't have anything to do with it. But I mentioned them in the book anyway, because I can't mention the others and not mention those. So Lewis and Dylan, who is 19 and 14, fairy stories a little bit out of their realm now. My grandson obviously is watching, and he's saying, Nana. Thank you, Roman. It's time you were in bed sleeping, son. I missed the thing that somebody else said on there, though.
What was that?
I don't know. There was one before Hayley and probably after my daughter said hi.
Oh, it's back to Martin about his question.
Yes, the audio book. That I wouldn't mind actually doing the audio book for that, because it's not a long long book. I wouldn't want to sit and have to read The Vacation Killer, or I could do the short story one. The Vacation Killer would be hard because there's such a lot, and to keep the intensity going would be hard. But yeah.
Lisa's asking a question.
What's my favorite script? I don't really understand what you mean by that.
Well, we'll see if she comes back and explains a little bit more, but there's a few other questions. There's a comment from Heather, your other grandmother half.
Oh. Oh, you will, Heather. You definitely will. Thank you. Oh, it's so kind.
Okay. Lisa clarified her question. She wants to know what genre.
Whichever one grabs my fancy at the time, Lisa. I can't, I loved writing Lorna Feeney's story because there was much in there that I could relate some of her feelings in some of it. But I love telling the other stories, things like the Loch End murder in Canongate. That I set that in my nana's house. Everything I described in there about you go in and the coal cupboard is to the left, and her bedroom, which was where I learnt to read, in that bedroom there, and then through, and the fire where it was, and the little black lion that the detective talks about in that story is sitting on my console in the living room.
Oh, wow.
They used to use it to break coal. It's about that big by about that long, but it is so heavy. And it used to sit in their grate. And my grandfather, who I never met, had it and used to break the coal with it. And then when he died, my grandmother used to, and I could remember her using the bottom of this to break the coal up. And I had to use it in the story and things like that. It's just so many of the stories.
Well, I think we all write based on our environment.
Yes. I read something somewhere or heard something somewhere once, and I don't remember where or by who, that said, write what you know. But we all know what pain is. We all know what loss is, and we all know what joy and disappointment is. So whatever story you tell, it's not, for me, it's not difficult to add those emotional ties that would go with that act. For example, with Lorna Feeney, I know what it feels like to be beaten. So I know what that powerlessness and pain and fear and what it does to your self-esteem. I know all of that from my own life. So it was easy to put that into Lorna's story.
Right.
And the same with all of the other things that obviously I've never been a soldier. So I don't know where that comes from.
Right. So we've got two more questions here. We've got Martin and Haley asking similar questions. So I'm going to post Haley's question because it's more expansive. And Martin asked the same question about more children's books.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we'll have to see. And I'm sure that Roman will be able to help me no end. But I have a feeling that poor train is going to come to a very rocky end if it has anything like the ones that go off my coffee table and into the box. But yes, okay.
So
yes, Lisa, and memories.
Yeah, we were talking about being influenced by our writings are all influenced by our environment and what we know. And Lisa's memories. I mean, all of us have got memories of something that we've tied into our writings.
Yes.
Oh, and other.
And I still believe that our DNA holds memories from our antecedents.
Mhm.
And so maybe that's how I can write what it feels like to be a soldier.
Right.
Because my grandfather, my father, my great-grandfather, they all were right back. So I would imagine that they're quite strong memories that they would have shared father to son, father to son.
Right. Right.
And since I was the son that my father never had, if you know what I mean, he wanted a boy and I turned up. But I turned out to be more the boy that he was looking for than the son that he had.
Right.
Because he had two boys after me. But I was the one that would jump off the roof of the garage to see if it could be done. Not them. So, oh dear. Sorry, Martin.
Yeah, it's clear as a bell here, so it's stabilized.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, does anybody else have any other questions?
Looks like we're heading for a close.
That sounds like it. Heather, Haley, Lisa, Martin, Sandy, any of you? Okay, then I guess we'll wrap things up. This has been the virtual launch party for Pat Donahue, aka GB Carmichael's first children's book.
No S.
Huh?
There's no S. It's Carmichael, not Carmichael's.
I said it was apostrophe S.
Oh, my apologies, Mike.
It was apostrophe S. Her first children's book, Tales from Beyond the Fey Veil, which is now live on Amazon, exclusively on Amazon, in both hardback and paperback format. The pricing is available there online, and the price for the hardback right now is £16.99, I believe. And if it's listed as anything higher than that, it's from a third-party seller. Don't pay more than that. And I want to say that the paperback is right around £11, if I remember, or is it less? Anyway, it's right. Don't. In other words, check the price, and if it looks high, it probably is. But I know that the hardback is £16.99, and it's listed as $22.99 in the U.S. And that's just because printing costs for hardback are outrageous.
And color.
Yes, and color as well. So hardback and color
for the first time
too. Cost of production way up. So let's. I'm going to post the last few comments here. Haley has said so she's not a question, but
well, stop going abroad and come to Scotland with me then.
And then Martin let's close with Martin's comments. He says, "Well done again." And I think with that we will end the broadcast. So
thank you, Martin.
We thank everybody for joining us, and hopefully people will be watching this on playback later this evening here in the U.S. I know that my list of people that follow the page is pretty extensive at this point, and we'll just let it go at that. So thanks everybody again for joining us, and we look forward to our next live launch party. So I'm Michael Hurd from Lineage Independent Publishing, and
I'm Pat Donahue, GB Carmichael. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm so grateful.
All right. Good night. Good afternoon, all.
Good evening.